I have a question for you guys. I was wondering which game or maybe even which recipe was the most difficult for you guys to put together, and then also like what was the easiest one to put together?
Ooh. Okay, well, technically Breath of the Wild, because that's the most recipes in one place. Like, that was the vast majority of the recipes.
What was the Master Edition recipe?
Yeah, so the Master recipes, so the Master Edition has a chapter, 7 recipes that are all, like, very difficult. We're talking like French cuisine, high cuisine, like you need to know a lot about cooking in order to make these right, but that's the point. It's the boss of the book because you have to include a boss chapter.
Exactly, and we had added these in after the original cookbook was written, but as our stretch goals on Kickstarter, and so we did a lot of research to make these happen. And not only that, but our skills had really grown between the start of the project and the end of the project because we had really grown as both chefs and also like people who can design really good recipes. So we wanted it to be a stretch for obviously the ones who bought the cookbook, but also for ourselves. And I remember some of those recipes were really challenging. Like we had to prepare ingredients, we had to like do a lot of research and figuring out how to make them work. And I'm really happy with how they came out. I don't know which one specifically though. Aimee, you'll know more than me. What was the one that was like?
I don't know. Well, like I did a ton of research into I'm going to like butcher what it's called, but it's like Zonai Chicacocatl. I'm sorry. But it's a Mexican, or actually it's not. It's an Aztec-based chocolate drink.
Yes.
But spiced drink. And
this already sounds way too hard for me.
So Andy, one thing I do want to say, both to you and to anyone else listening, I'm a really big fan of Cheap Lazy Vegan. If you've ever heard of that website, it's like really easy cooking that is healthy and you can do on a budget. And we tried very hard to make as much of the food in this book as easy as possible. So I promise like the really hard stuff is only like 2% of the book. Most of it's pretty easy. You don't need any special training or.
And I like that it was like the boss battle. I think that's a good comparison.
Well, you need to make it hard at the end of the book. Like I think, the people who chose to have a master version, like they are the type to want to become master chef.
Right.
And I think that definitely happened towards the end. We've had a few people try the master chapter at this point. I don't think every recipe has been tried yet.
That we know of.
And we tried very hard to. We're health nuts a bit. And so we enjoy having like a scientifically led, mostly plant-based diet. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the recipes, I mean, obviously like, roast bird, like that one's not vegan. But a lot of them are, or lean heavily towards more plant-based. A ton of the dessert chapter is actually secretly plant-based. Because I think a lot of people forget that like almond milk tastes better than other milk when used in a dessert format.
Yeah, we tried to make it as kind of open as possible. There's markings on all of them, I think, for kosher, for vegan, for vegetarian.
It's actually, gluten-free. It's
gluten-free.
not kosher.
Gluten-free.
I thought about including a kosher marker, but I didn't. And now people are going to be upset that you mentioned that.
Oh, no. Well, the challenge with kosher was it kind of depended on your tradition, which is why we couldn't do it.
But yeah, we mark vegetarian and vegan and gluten-free all specifically on each recipe. Yep. And we have a ton of alternatives, too, because some people are allergic to nuts. Like, how do you
That's
deal with
me.
this?
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, exactly. And so I try every recipe that includes that. I do try to give some sort of alternative because it's important.
Allison,
and,
are you going to make some master food over here anytime soon?
I mean, I also am not the greatest cook in the world, so that's that's why I chose something easy to cook from the book. But I was saying to Andy yesterday that I think definitely on special occasions this is a challenge that I would love to undergo, is to pick something kind of fancy and something a little bit out of my league and give it a try.